Tonight's story takes us deep inside an abandoned hospital that should have stayed forgotten. For 60 years, nobody dared enter St. Jude's Relief Center. Not after the mysterious fever, not after the disappearances, and definitely not after what people claimed was waiting on the 4th floor. But one night, a young YouTuber decided to explore the building alone. He went in searching for content. He never came back out.
Nobody in Blackwood talked about St. Jude's. Not the old men sitting at the diner, not the mayor, not even the local newspaper. It was one of those places the whole town had silently agreed to forget. Like a nightmare people stopped mentioning, hoping it would disappear on its own. St. Jude's Relief Center was built in 1948. Back then, it was a symbol of hope, a place where sick people recovered, where families smiled again. But everything changed during the summer of 1962. The townspeople called it the Great Fever. Nobody ever explained what truly happened inside that hospital. But by the end of that summer, the front gates were chained shut, the windows were boarded up, and every medical record from that year mysteriously vanished. Since then, the building had remained abandoned, rotting quietly at the edge of town. For 60 years, nobody entered St. Jude's. Until Elias Vance did.
Elias Vance was 26 years old, a YouTuber with 50,000 subscribers. He loved abandoned places, haunted places, dangerous places. To him, St. Jude's wasn't a tragedy. It was content. On a freezing October night, Elias stood in front of the rusted hospital gate with a camera in his hand. His breath floated through the cold air as he smiled at the lens. All right, guys. Tonight we are exploring the abandoned St. Jude's Relief Center. They say people still hear old hospital machines running inside this place, even after 60 years. He laughed nervously and pushed against the gate. One hinge snapped loose. The entrance slowly creaked open. Let's see if anyone's still working the night shift. He stepped inside and immediately stopped smiling. The cold inside the hospital felt wrong, heavy, wet, like the walls themselves had absorbed decades of sickness. The lobby was frozen in time. Broken chairs, dust-covered papers, shattered glass. His flashlight moved across the reception desk, then stopped. A small child's shoe sat in the middle of the hallway, perfectly clean, pointing toward the east wing. Elias stared at it silently, then followed it. The east wing had once been the children's floor. Every footstep echoed loudly through the darkness. Elias tried to keep talking to the camera, but his voice had changed. Lower, nervous. Okay, this place officially feels creepy now. He forced out a laugh. Then suddenly, cling, cling, cling. Metal scraping against metal. Slow, rhythmic, coming from a nearby room. Elias aimed his flashlight toward a half-open door labeled Surgery Prep. Inside the room, an old IV stand was slowly moving back and forth by itself. There were no open windows, no wind, nothing touching it. Still, it moved. Okay, that has to be a draft. He stepped closer carefully. The IV stand stopped moving instantly. Dead still. Elias lowered the flashlight toward the floor and froze. Two small wet footprints covered the dusty tiles.
fresh footprints. Like a child had just walked across the room barefoot. Elias backed away slowly. His breathing became heavier. Then he whispered, "We're going upstairs."
The elevator was broken, so Elias climbed the stairs. As he moved higher, the smell changed. The lower floors smelled old and dusty, but the third floor smelled metallic, like old blood. Elias kept climbing. Finally, he reached the fourth floor and immediately stopped. The hallway looked completely different. Clean white floors, bright walls, no dust anywhere. It looked freshly cleaned, like the hospital was still operating. Elias stared down the hallway in disbelief. My phone signal just disappeared. The atmosphere up here feels different. The downstairs felt abandoned. He swallowed hard, then whispered, "Up here feels occupied." At the very end of the hallway, one door waited in silence. Room 402. The brass numbers on the door were spotless. No dust, no rust. Elias slowly grabbed the handle. Ice cold. He pushed the door open. Inside the room sat a single hospital bed, perfectly made. Beside it stood an old heart monitor with a cracked screen. Elias stepped inside carefully. Then, bang! The door slammed shut behind him. Elias jumped and rushed toward it. The handle wouldn't move. "Okay, seriously, stop messing around!" No answer. Only silence. Then suddenly, beep. The heart monitor turned on by itself. Beep. Beep. A green line slowly moved across the screen. Elias turned toward the bed and watched the mattress begin to sink. Slowly, like an invisible body was lying down on it. The pillow pressed inward. Something unseen rested there. Elias backed away in terror. "Is someone there?" The monitor suddenly sped up. Beep, 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 beep. Then a voice whispered from every corner of the room. Dry, thin, emotionless. "The doctor is running late, Elias." A long silence followed. Then, "But the patient is ready." Black liquid slowly began leaking from the walls. Thick, dark, rotten. The smell hit Elias instantly. Decay, disease, death. Elias stumbled backward, shaking violently. Then he noticed the reflection inside the cracked monitor screen. It wasn't showing him anymore. A pale man wearing a hospital gown stared back instead. His skin was covered in dark, infected marks. The man slowly lifted one hand. And suddenly, Elias felt invisible fingers wrap tightly around his throat. He choked and gasped for air. "I'm not supposed to be here." Then he saw something moving beside the bed. The IV stand. The same one from downstairs. It slowly rolled toward him on its own. A rusted needle dangled from the tube, dripping glowing blue liquid onto the floor. The whispering voice returned. Closer this time. "One dose for the fever." A pause. Then, "One dose for the soul." Elias collapsed. His camera crashed onto the floor, still recording sideways. The lens pointed beneath the hospital bed. And then, something moved underneath.
Two pale hands slowly crawled out from the darkness. The fingers were impossibly long, the nails cracked and yellow. The hands wrapped around Elias's ankles. His scream echoed through the room. "Please! No! Please!" He clawed desperately at the floor, trying to escape. The flashlight flickered wildly. Then everything went dark. Only one sound remained. The heart monitor. Beep. Flatline.
Police found Elias's car outside St. Jude's the next morning. They searched the hospital, even room 402. But the room was empty. No blood, no black liquid, no signs anyone had entered the building in years. Except for one thing. Elias's camera, lying alone in the center of the floor. Most of the footage was ruined by static, but the final few seconds were perfectly clear. The camera showed the empty room. Then a calm nurse's voice spoke softly. Nurse's voice. "Patient, Elias Vance. Room 402. A long pause followed. Then, admitted. Permanently. A heavy metal door slammed shut. A lock clicked loudly. And somewhere deep inside the abandoned halls of St. Jude's, something moved in the darkness.